Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the game concentration or memory. It's the game where you have to kind of flip over the cards and match them. And to do this, we're going to use inheritance. But not only that, we're going to use visual inheritance. We're going to inherit a control to make our own control that's going to be the cards on the board. And that's going to make the game a lot easier to make. So before we start, though, let's just take a look at what the game's going to look like. This is what it's going to be. We're going to have like kind of looks like a tabletop or something, and we're going to have 14 cards on it. We'll have a menu for creating a new game, and each one of these the cards that you see here on the form is going to be a custom control that we're going to make using inheritance. So let's just sort of start doing that and see how it goes. So I'm going to pop over to Visual Studio here, and I'm going to make a new Windows Form application, and I will call it concentration. I probably have another concentration project. I'm going to call it like OOP. Okay, I don't know. I probably already have something called concentration OOP. I don't know. You won't. So, oh hey. Wow, it worked. Okay, neat. So here's my main form, and let me just kind of resize it, something like that. And let me get my window set up, kind of dock this down here. There we go. Now let me go import the resources for this thing. They're in the folder that's up in Blackboard in week 11. So if we go up here to properties, project properties, resources. I'll just go import all the resources for this thing. And they're in the zip file, again, for this project. And resources. Just grab Control A, grab all these guys and click open. Boom. There we are. So these are the images for the cards that we're going to have in the game. There's going to be 7 cards. And when they're kind of face down, that we're going to see that card back image. We're actually not going to use the blank image. We don't need that. And we'll have the tabletop image on our form. So, and I think we have one sound effect in here too. So it's in there somewhere. Right? Images, audio. There we go. There's our card flip sound effect. So now that we've got our resources, let's go set up our main form. So I'll pop back over to the form designer, and I'll bring up the toolbox here, and I'm just going to throw a menu strip on here. Menu strip. Whee! There we go. Put a menu strip on there. Let's add a file menu, and let's add a new game option, and let's add an exit option, and let's change the name of the form down here on the right. In the properties section, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to change the text property to be concentration. There we go. And let's set the background of the form to be that wooden pattern that looks like a table. So if you kind of select the form here and you go into you scroll through the properties, you'll see one here called background image. Let's click on that, and then we'll pick the kind of the tabletop pattern there. And you can see it doesn't look quite right. That's because it's kind of tiling. But if you go down here right below that, you go to background image layout, you'll see that there's we can select tile or stretch. So let's say stretch, and now that looks a lot better. And then we're going to need a timer in this game. So we click on one card, we'll flip it over. We click on a second card, we'll flip it over. And then 3, 2, 1. Now we compare the two cards to see if they're equal or not. So we're going to need a timer. So let's go to our toolbox and search for the timer control and throw the timer onto our form. And now we have a timer there. Let's set the interval on the timer to be 2000. Which will be 2 seconds. That's the time that the cards will be face up before we turn them face down. And then let's double click on the timer to create the function that that is going to check to see if the cards match. So there's our timer tick. I think we're doing pretty well here. Now let's think about how this is going to work. We're going to want to make a custom control that we can drag onto our form here, and that's going to display the cards. So let's add a new class that's going to be our control. So I'm going to right click on the project here, and I'm going to say add class. And what this is going to be is it's going to be like a picture box with some added capabilities. So let's call it a card box. It's kind of like a turbocharged picture box. Let's call it a card box. We could have also done this we could have made a user control. That would have worked too, but we're going to inherit picture box directly ourselves. So let's click card box, or we'll call it card box and click add. And you'll see now that we get a new class called card box. And what I want to do here is extend or inherit the picture box control. So I'm going to say colon picture box. That is the C# syntax for inheriting something. So this is a card box class that inherits everything that is in picture box. Why is picture box underlined? It's because picture box is defined in system.windows.forms, and we can either fully qualify that class name here, or we can add a using statement to say that we want to import that library. So I'm going to say that we want to say using system.windows.forms. And now we've got that using statement there, and you can see that error has gone away. So, whoops. So now what we have is our own control that inherits picture box. Now, let's think about what this thing has to do. Well, let's add a constructor. So to add a constructor, the shortcut is CTOR, and you hit tab twice. Visual Studio will create a constructor for you. And the card box constructor, by default, will call the picture box constructor, so that objects are built from the bottom up. When you are constructing a hierarchy of objects, or objects that inherit from other objects, you want to build them from the bottom up. So you want your constructor to call the base class constructor first. If that object has a base class, then its base class constructor needs to get called first. So the specific syntax for that would be colon base in C#, but if you don't put it in there, the compiler will sneak it in by default. It will always try to call the parameterless base class constructor. If you don't have a parameterless base class constructor, then you would have to use colon base to pass the parameters down to your base class. So there's our card box class. Now, what are we going to do in here? Let's set the width of this control to be 100 and the height to be 140, because that's the size of our images. So let's set our width property to be 100 and our height property to be 140. And then let's set our image property to be the card back. So it's properties.resources.cardback. And you're like, where did width, height, and image come from? Well, those are defined in the picture box control, right? When we inherit picture box control, we get everything that's in a picture box control. So we have these by default. Now, here's the cool thing. Watch this. I'm going to rebuild my solution. And if I go to the toolbox now, and I go to my form, you should see up here at the top, look, oh, cool, there's my card box. So the Visual Studio will look through your classes and see which one of them are using visual inheritance. They're inheriting from controls, and it will put them in the toolbox. And now what I can do is I can just drag this thing. Ooh, look at that. I can put these things. You know, the old me would have made these things lined up all perfect. But I kind of like the more organic, feel where they're just kind of like, they were dropped on there by some kid or something. So we want 2 rows of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. We need one more over here. Card box. Boom. Cool. Now let's put some other ones on there. Boom. 1. We need 14 of them. Sorry, I know this is just so exciting watching me drag and drop cards onto a form. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 2 more of them. 6. Seven. There we go. Ah, nuts. Maybe I need to make the form just a little bit wider. Okay, there we go. So we've got 14 cards in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 14 of them. All right. So there we go. And let's save that project. I don't know why that's taking so long. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is go into the card class and work on that and kind of add the functionality to it that a card class would need to have. I guess it's okay. So I'm going to close my toolbox. Now let's go open up our card box class again and view the code. Now, what do we need? We are going to have to define, every card is going to have some sort of a type. And if you go into the resources and kind of look at the images, we've got coins, dynamite, knight, lamp, shield, sword, and a torch, right? Those are the 7 things that a card can be. So we're going to want some sort of enumeration, an enumerated type, a list of constants that defines what can these cards be. So let's make an enumeration for that. We could put the enumeration inside the card box control, but it's going to make it, that would be kind of clunky because in the form we're going to need those particular controls, or we're going to need those values. So rather than putting the enumerated type inside of the card box, let's put it outside of the card box, right here in the namespace. So let's make a public enum called card type enum, and then we'll define what types a card can be. So what was it? There's a knight, a Knigget, a knight, a sword, a shield, a torch. Doesn't matter what order you put these things. Dynamite. There was coins, and what else did we have? The lamp. Lamp. So how many of those? How many we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, we got them all. Knight, sword, shield, torch, dynamite, coins, and lamp. So now we have defined the types that card can have. So every card is going to have one of these card type enum variables in it that defines what type it is. It says what kind of card type it is. So let's go add some public properties to our card box. So, well, where do we want to put these? Do we want to put them above the constructor, below the constructor? I don't know. Let's put them below the constructor. Let's make a public property called card type. So if you type prop and hit tab twice, you'll get a stub for a property. And it is going to be a card type enum, that defines the type of this card. So let's call it card type. So we've got a public card type enum. So this is, now we know this card can store a particular card type. What else do we need here? let's make a function called show card here. So like when the card is kind of flipped up, we want to see it, and when so we want to be able to flip this card over and flip it back over. So maybe we'll make a function called show card and a function called hide card. Let's make a, so we'll make a public void function called show card. And a public void function called hide card. And then this will, so this is going to kind of flip, let's say this flips a card back over, flips a card over, a card face down. And let's make another one called remove card that removes a card from the game. A card from the game. Well, this is easy because the control has a visible property. So to remove this thing from the game, we can just set the visible property to false, and then it'll disappear. Okay, so there we go. And what does the hide card function do? Well, that's just gonna set the image to be the card face down. So let's set its image property, image equals properties dot properties dot resources dot card back. So that's the back of the card. Now, what about the show card function? Well, that's going to display whatever image corresponds to the card type right here. So that's going to be a big, we could use a switch statement. Let's use a switch statement for that. So let's switch on, we could use if for that. And the cool thing though is if we switch on a particular, an enumeration, you may remember this from the traffic light. Sometimes it takes a second for Visual Studio to kind of figure out what it needs to do here. What if I try that again? Switch card type. No. Enter. I'm trying to impress people here and it's not working. It should populate this with all of the possible values that we could test for, and it is not working. Well, since it's going to be a jerk on me here, we try it one more time before I give up. Switch card type. If I do that, no. Well, I'm very disappointed. Case. What if it's a knight? And that's, we have to say card type enum.knight. If it's a knight, then we'll put the picture of the knight in the picture box. So we'll say our image equals properties dot resources dot knight. I'm very disappointed with Visual Studio. Usually it auto completes. It will put in all of the possible labels for you. It just makes your life a whole lot easier. And then let's just say, okay, if it was the lamp, then let's put the lamp in here. We could have also used a lookup table for this. The problem with that, though, is that then we have to kind of cast between our indexes and our enumerations, and that's not really type safe. We could create a map or a dictionary that maps enumerations to images. That would work too. That would, that would be kind of a little bit verbose, though. We got some coins. Let me change this to be coins. And so this is just a big cut and paste job. And what do we had the shield. We got the shield. What else have we got? We had a sword. how many do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The torch, we're missing the torch. Let's go add that. And the knight, lamp, shield, sword. What am I missing? Did I get them all? The dynamite. We could have used an if-else for this too. It's not like horrible, but I mean, I don't know. I think an if would have been a little bit cleaner. Dynamite. All right, so there we've got a show card function and a hide card and a remove card. There we go. Interesting. So what do we have for a draw function here, or an invalidate function? I'm just going to play around here. Public, override. You don't have to follow along with this. Void. Do we have a draw function? What does the refresh do? Forces the control to invalidate its client area and immediately redraws itself in any child controls. Do we have an invalidate function? No. But we could add a refresh function on here. Nah, let's not do that. Sorry, just kind of got sidetracked. All right, so now I think we're good here. I think we have everything we need in this card class. We've got our enumerations up here, you know, in the namespace. We've got our constructor. We've got a way to set the type of the card. We've got a way to kind of show the card. We have a way to hide it and remove it from the game. So I think what I'm going to do is stop the recording here. In the next video, we'll pop over to the form and build a list of these cards so that we can assign them their types and shuffle them, and then also handle the clicking on the cards. You'll notice here that we don't have any way to click on the cards. That is actually going to go in the form, because the form needs to, when you click on a card, the form is going to have to decide, hey, is this the first card? Is this the second card? We actually want the form to respond to the click. So we'll set up that in the next video. All right, so thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.